Hi, Knights. Good morning. It is Monday, April 27th. I hope you had a very good weekend. I know I had a good weekend. I want to share with you that my daughter got married this weekend. She wasn't able to have her big wedding that we were planning on for Saturday, so we have postponed that till July 4th. So she'll have her big wedding then. But we were able to have a small wedding with just our family at the church. So I wanted to share a picture of Taylor and Adrian. So this is my daughter and her new husband, Adrian. And they are going to, on their way back to Iowa right now. That's where they live. And they work for Hormel's down there. So, yeah. So it was a very nice, beautiful day. The weather was awesome. And so I'm very excited to now have a son-in-law. And remember, I introduced you to Adrian with his picture because remember, he's a soldier and he is being deployed at the end of July. So that's why we wanted to get married. They wanted to get married before he left because he'll be gone for a whole year. So that's kind of a bummer. So that was kind of exciting for my weekend. And that's why I had Thursday and Friday off. That's why I wasn't making phone calls or comments or anything. But I'm back now. And we are back to week 5 of distance learning. All right. So on your new matrix, you should get the new one out. It says week 5, April 27th through May 1st. Okay, and then we have your must-dos over here for Monday, and we'll talk about those. And then you've got all of your may-dos that you can do. And remember, it goes on to the back side for the rest of the week, so we have to flip it over. So on Friday for your must-do for reading, you all had your new books, and then you were able to reread any of chapters 1 through 4 that you wanted to reread on your own. And then, of course, we had those fun sheets for you to do the ABC order. And, of course, the word search. You know how I love word searches, and I make you guys do them all the time. So that was kind of a fun thing to do. Today on the matrix, let's read what it says for reading. It says watch the YouTube video, and that's what you're doing right now. And then we are going to read chapters 5 and 6 at Lions at lunchtime. And now you can read with me in your own book. And at the end of that, I want you to be thinking about, why is peanut butter so important in this story? They always talk about the jar of peanut butter that is in Jack's backpack. So I want you to think about that. Why do you think the jar of peanut butter is so important? And we'll talk about that after our reading today. So what I'm going to do before I go over to the book camera, we're going to talk about the end of chapter 4 when Annie was going across the river and she got into that really thick mud patch and she could not get out on her own, and the mud was like all the way up here to her neck, and so Jack had to help her out. So I'm going to read this last page before chapter 5 because it's been a few days since we've read. See? Annie shook her fist at the vulture. I'm fine. Now beat it. Remember, the vultures fly around and they wait for you to die so that they can eat you. They're like a scavenger animal. They eat things that are dead. But the giant, ugly bird still circled. Come on, let's get away from him, said Jack, and he pushed his glasses into place. Rats, he said. Now his glasses were muddy. He tried to clean his hands in the grass. Oh, no, shouted Annie. Jack turned to her. The wildebeest will get stuck in the mud hole, she cried. She waved her arms at the wildebeest struggling to swim across the river. Not here, she shouted, not here. But the frantic swimmers kept coming. Now, rivers move really fast and the current of the water is very strong. So the wildebeest know that they have to cross and then they have to fight the water. And so that's what frantic means. They're a little bit scared and a little bit nervous. They just want to get across to the other side. But Annie is saying not here, because if they cross right here, they're going to get stuck in that mud just like Annie did. And the wildebeest weigh a little bit more than Annie does, so they will not be able to help them get out of the mud hole. So Annie does not want them to cross at that part of the river. So I'm going to move over to the book camera and we'll see what happens next in chapter 5. Okay, here we are, chapter 5, Lions at Lunchtime. "Oh, no, no, no," shouted Annie. She raced down the bank until she reached a sandy, clear spot. "Here, here," she called. The wildebeest followed her with their wild eyes. Jack watched in disbelief as the swimmers changed their course. Slowly, all the wildebeest swam to where Annie stood. She waved them in like a traffic policeman. Jack grabbed his backpack. Annie cried, "Let's go before we get trampled." "Keep it up," she shouted to the wildebeest as she took off after Jack. They ran farther up the river, away from the incoming wildebeest. Finally, they stopped to catch their breath. They looked back. Everything seemed fine. The wildebeest were scrambling safely over the riverbank. Soon they would graze on the grass prepared by the zebras. "Good work," Jack said to Annie. "Thanks," she said. "Okay, now for our riddle." "No, first we've got to get clean," said Jack. "You look like you're in a mud suit." Wonder how they're going to get clean out there. High-pitched laughter rang through the air. It sounded mocking and mean. Jack and Annie turned around. They saw 2 spotted brown animals standing in the tall grass. The creatures had bodies like dogs, but with sloping backs. They laughed again. "Ha, ha," said Annie. "You don't look so great yourself." "What are they?" said Jack. He took out the book. He tried not to get mud on it as he looked for a picture. When he found it, he read aloud. "On the African plains, the hyena is the ruling predator after the lion. It makes a sound similar to a high-pitched human laugh." "What's predator mean?" said Annie. "It means it catches things and eats them," said Jack. "Oh," said Annie. "Yuck." The 2 hyenas laughed again, and they moved closer to Jack and Annie. Quietly, Jack read more. "The hyena has a reputation for being a thief and a coward." "Let's see if they're cowards," whispered Annie. "Let's try to scare them." Remember, a coward is somebody who is not brave. The hyenas laughed and moved a little closer. "How?" Jack asked. "Act like a monster," said Annie. "Now!" Jack and Annie made terrible monster faces. They put out their hands and rushed for the hyenas. "Ah!" they shouted. The hyenas yelped and scurried off. "Scaredy cats!" Annie shouted after them. "Come on," said Jack. So there's our hyenas, and there they are running away. They look pretty ferocious, though, don't they? Yeah. Annie and Jack took off in the other direction. They ran around a bend in the river. Jack heard the hyena laughter again. It sounded far away. "Good," he said. "They're gone." "Hey, maybe we can wash over there," said Annie. She pointed to the edge of the forest. There was a small pond surrounded by tall grass. Zebras were drinking the water. "Yay," said Jack, "Yeah," said Jack, "if it's safe enough for them to drink." The zebras ignored them as they walked toward the pond. When they reached the edge of the water, Jack set his heavy pack down in the dry grass. He glanced around. No lions were in sight, but then he heard something. On the far side of the pond, something very big was coming out of the trees. I wonder what it could be. Let's go on to chapter 6. Spick and Span. Be still, said Jack. Jack and Annie stood frozen as an elephant stepped out of the shadows. It waded into the pond and dipped its trunk into the water. Oh, wow, said Annie. Jack breathed a sigh of relief. An elephant wasn't going to chase them and eat them. But still, the elephant was huge. Let's sneak away, said Jack. Oh, there's that big elephant. Oh, look what he's doing. They have a built-in shower, don't they? That's a good way to get clean. But I want to watch, said Annie. Fine, said Jack. He was tired of Annie getting sidetracked. I'm going to solve the riddle by myself. I'll meet you back at the treehouse. He turned to go. A spray of water rained down on him. It came from behind. He shouted with surprise and looked back. The elephant's trunk was pointed straight at Annie. Cool, she cried. He's giving me a shower. The elephant sprayed her again, then again. The mud slowly rolled off her face, her braids, her t-shirt, her shorts, her legs, and her sneakers. I guess the elephant doesn't like dirty kids, said Annie, laughing. Her eyes were squeezed shut. Finally, she was clean and soaking wet. Now it's your turn, she said to Jack. Jack stepped forward and shut his eyes tight. A blast of water hit him. It did feel like a shower, a strong shower. When Jack was clean, the elephant let out a grunt. Then he started to splash himself with water. Thanks, said Annie. Yeah, thanks, said Jack. I'm spick and span now, said Annie. If everything is spick and span, it means it's all nice and clean. When the sun dries me off, I'll be like new. Good, said Jack. Now we can get serious. He picked up his heavy pack. We have to figure out the answer to the riddle so we can leave this place before we run into real trouble. He looked around nervously. Where are the lions? He wondered. A small bird flitted near his head. Hi, Annie said to the bird. Jack turned back to her. According to the riddle, we're looking for something gold and sweet. What do you want? Annie asked the bird. The bird twittered and flew around Jack and Annie. Its feathers were dull gray, but it had a bright, happy manner. Annie, listen to me. Not the bird, said Jack. The bird kept fluttering around them. She's trying to tell us something, said Annie. Jack let out a long sigh. Oh, you are driving me crazy today, he said. But I feel like she needs our help, said Annie. Maybe her babies fell out of the nest. Annie, you can't save every animal in Africa, said Jack. This bird is important, said Annie. Trust me. The bird darted toward the trees. It landed on a branch and cocked its head at them. She says follow, said Annie. The bird headed into the forest. Annie started after it. "Don't go in there," said Jack. "You might run into—" There was no need to finish. The bird and Annie had disappeared into the trees. "A snake or a lion," Jack said to himself. "Come on," Annie called. Jack moaned. Oh. He pulled on his pack and ran. The peanut butter jar thumped against his back. So there goes Annie again. Annie always seems to be running off before she thinks. All right, now on our matrix for today, it tells us to, why is the peanut butter important? What will they do with it? Use page 10 to draw your prediction in the box. No writing yet. Okay, and I'm even going to highlight that. No writing yet. So the only thing you're going to do today is you're going to think about your prediction and you're going to draw a picture of it in the space over here on page 10 of your packet. It says pause and predict up here at the top. It says each chapter so far has mentioned the peanut butter in Jack's backpack. Do you think this will be an important detail later in the story? What might happen with the peanut butter? Make a prediction. So right here in the box with Jack and Annie, I want you to think about what's going to happen with that jar of peanut butter. Why is that peanut butter going to be important? So how do you think they're going to use it in the story? First of all, draw with your pencil what your prediction is, and then I want you to color it with your crayons. And remember, you are not writing yet. Do not make an X there, but just don't write yet because we're going to write tomorrow. So today, I just want you to draw your picture and color it. Okay, so that's your reading assignment for today. Got to think about, why do you think that peanut butter is important? All right, let's move on to math, and let's take a look at our matrix for week 5. We are on lesson 5 today. Let's see, we left off doing the guided practice. So today you're going to do the independent practice, numbers 4 through 12, on pages 557 and 558 in your math packet. And then go ahead and try the brain builders, numbers 13 and 14, if you want to. We are skipping lesson 6, so you can thank us later for that. So we're not going to do lesson 6. So after this, we're going to skip on to lesson 7. All right, so here's lesson 5 today. Let's take a look at it. Independent practice, so you're going to be doing this one on your own. It says use the bar graph to answer the questions. So we're still talking about bar graphs. We have hair color, brown, black, blonde, and red. So you're going to read questions 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, these 1, 2, 3, 4, these 5 questions all go with this bar graph over here about hair color. Okay, then you're going to move on to 9, 10, and 11. And these questions, you're going to use this bar graph over here about pets. We have dogs, cats, fish, and birds. So read the questions and then go ahead and use the graph to find the answers. Okay, then when you're done, turn it over. Problem solving, number 12. Use the bar graph to answer the questions. We have favorite activities, video games, playing outside, reading, and board games. So you're going to answer question number 12 with this graph. Okay. Then, if you choose to, you do not have to, but if you would like to do the brain builders 13 and 14 also go along with this graph. Okay. So number 13 and 14, you're going to read through those, and then you're going to use the graph from up here. You might have to alter it a little bit. You might have to add some stuff to it to answer those questions 13 and 14. Remember, you do not have to do the brain builders, but if you choose to, that would be wonderful. Okay, so go ahead and do 1 through 12 for sure, or I'm sorry, 4 through 12 for sure, and 13 and 14 if you want to do that. And then we will correct these tomorrow. Alrighty. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.